void, right? I was lacking something deep inside of me. And I thought by bringing in all of these material things, my life was gonna, be amazing. And that was going to bring me all the happiness in the world that I was looking for, right? With that being said, throughout that journey, I was bringing in certain things, not everything that I wanted to manifest. I mean, I was putting a lot of force to things. But what I realized is that no matter what was coming into my life, there was a deep void within me, right? And so anyways, we could be here for days, but I just wanted to let you guys know that if you're going through any struggle, if you're going through life and you're feeling like no one's listening to you, if you don't feel heard, you don't feel validated, you don't feel loved, you don't feel accepted, you don't feel like you're connecting to the world around you, the people around you, you are not alone, right? This is a journey that I went through myself. And throughout this journey, what I realized is that, wow, it's that you really, you hear people saying like the work begins with you. And I don't think you actually get it until you actually do it. Like people were always saying, it's all up to you. You're the one that has to do this. And I never realized how true that really was, right? Like it all starts with me, right? And during all that transition, I was pointing the finger at everybody else, right? I was trying to fix everybody else because I was doing everything right and everybody else was doing everything wrong. And so as long as I was doing this, I wasn't taking responsibility for myself. I wasn't showing up in my life and to all of my relationships, not only my intimate relationships, but my relationships with my kids and with the people around me. I wasn't showing up in a fulfilled space. I was very needy, very lacking of my own needs. So I was showing up for the people around me, expecting them to give to me those things that I couldn't give to myself. And so that completely transformed. And, I had a spiritual awakening. I actually transformed my life. And it was when I stopped doing this and started doing this, that's when my life really started to transform. It was not an easy thing to do, to look in the mirror and take responsibility for myself, but it has been the most beautiful thing I have ever done, because I stopped giving my power away to other people, to other circumstances in my life. And I really started to step into my true self and look at all those pieces of me that once I felt were flawed and felt abandoned and felt neglected. And I started to really self-soothe myself and show up for myself from that space, right? So with that being said, I just wanted to give you a little feedback for those of you who have never watched me. And also because today's training topic is all about how to have a conscious relationship, right? This is something so important. We're always in relationships with other people. I mean, we're in relationships with everybody in our life. We're in a relationship with ourselves first and foremost, but we have a relationship to money. We have a relationship to our neighbors. We have a relationship to our job. We have a relationship to our career. We have a relationship to our siblings and our aunts and our uncles and everybody else that's in our life. So our life is filled with different kinds of relationships, right? And I know intimate relationships are the ones that always mirror back to us our own insecurities. So those tend to be the most challenging ones. And I believe is that it's two people coming together to help each other heal, right? But a lot of times what happens is that we're in our headspace, in our ego, we're not in center in our heart space. So we start to judge the other person. We start to judge the relationship. We start to sometimes judge ourselves. I mean, I did that a lot, but it took me a while to get there. I was initially doing a lot of this. And so all of that affects all of our relationships, right? Because the way that we see the relationships is how things is going to keep unfolding for us. And a lot of times, if we're not taking responsibility for ourselves and we expect other people to fulfill us and to fill a void for us that we can't fill for ourselves, we're very needy, we're very graspy, we're very in this low level energy that we're showing up for everyone around us. And what we don't realize is that the energy that we're showing up for those of us, it's the energy that we're going to get back from them, right? Because we are energetic beings. And I know I've talked about this in a lot. If you guys have watched any of my trainings, it's like scientifically proven. We're like 99.99999, some percentage, very high. Like we're really energy, made out of energy. This is why you can walk into a room and feel the energy in the room. If there's awkwardness, if there's anything going on that doesn't feel right, you can usually feel it without people having to say anything. And that's the reason why. So people can sense your energy, even if you're trying to cover it up, which was something that I was doing. I was trying to cover it up and pretending that everything was okay. But people knew subconsciously, they may not be able to tell you exactly what's going on, but subconsciously they'll be able to feel that there's something off, right? And when there's something off, it's not going to allow them to open up and trust you fully, because this is one of the lessons I had to learn. And I'm going to jump into the trainings. I have a little bullet marks of things that I want to cover, but what we don't realize is that it's that people are only going to meet us at the level that we're willing to meet ourselves, right? And guys, if you're doing this, I've done this a million times. We want other people to give us love, right? We want to be in trusting, loving, passionate relationships with other people around us. But a lot of times we're always like, well, show me your cards and then I'll show you mine, right? And this is not a place, an energetic place to come to, because now you don't, your energy is, I don't trust you, right? And the reason we don't trust others, this is a lesson that took me a while to learn, and till this day, it's deep.
On a scale of 1 to 5, would you give yourself a 5 on achieving what you want in life? If your answer is anything less than a 5, right now, I have something awesome for you. Achieving your goals and living your life at a 5 isn't easy. Most people aren't prepared to focus, stay disciplined, and do the everyday work that is necessary to achieve amazing results. But since you're watching this, then I'm guessing that you're not one of those people. And this is an opportunity that will change your life. Give2Get is a global program that brings together world-class coaching and combines it with empowering masterminds and networking opportunities. We provide 5-star guidance for the price of a cup of coffee a day. To find out more, click on the link in the description of this coaching session.
When we don't trust other people, it really comes down to us not trusting ourselves. Because when you trust yourself, you trust the people around you, you trust your relationships, you trust your environment, you trust the world around you, because you know who you are, and you know that you make whatever decision you need to make sure that you're taken care of. When you fully trust yourself, you trust the people around you, that the relationships are going to blossom to what is in alignment for you. And if you don't, you trust yourself enough to know that you would set a healthy boundary and speak from your heart, from a place of compassion, to express what your needs are, right? And that's what builds trust within ourselves. So anyways, I know I can go off on tangents because this is something that everybody should know this. I think our relationships will be so much more, all of our relationships would be so much more amazing if we took responsibility for our journey, and first and foremost for ourselves, right? It's interesting because I've been single for a while, and I recently started seeing somebody, and I told this person, I'm responsible for my feelings and you're responsible for your feelings. My space is only, since I'm responsible for my feelings, I got to make sure that if something feels off, I have to speak up about it. And I have to set my boundary and speak from a place of love and compassion, because if something doesn't feel right, I'm going to express that to you. But I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to blame you. I'm not going to make you wrong for it. I'm just going to let you know how I'm feeling, because this is how I am setting my boundary and speaking up for myself. And I expect you to do the same. I'm not a mind reader. We all look at life differently. And so if something is bothering you, it's your responsibility. Since you're responsible for your feelings, it's your responsibility to communicate that with me, right? And communicate that from a place where we're not being neutral, we're holding space for each other, we're not judging the other person, we're taking responsibility for our feelings, and this training, I'll tell you guys tips of how you can do this. Anyways, I know it's been almost over 10 minutes and I've just been talking about myself and my journey, but it's because everything that I do, and the reason I became a coach was because I once was in pain. I once had failed. All of my relationships were failing. I was disconnected to everyone around me, and I was trying to control them from a place of lack and fear and need. And that never, and it just didn't do anything. But when I took responsibility for myself and I started to show up for myself with love and compassion, then I was actually extending that to everybody around me. And I had zero expectations from the people around me. So that allowed them to let down their guard and to actually open up their hearts and let me in. So the funny thing is that when I was trying to control everybody around me, I was getting nowhere. But when I took responsibility for myself, all of those relationships started to improve. And when I say all of them, my intimate relationships, my relationships with my parents, with my siblings, with my friends, with my kids. I'm a mom of 3, just started to improve. And it all started with me. So once I noticed like the change in me and the change of the people around me, I'm like, crap, how do I help others do this, right? Because I know that this is one of the struggles we have the most. There's been a study that's been done that says the top 2 things that people try to manifest is love and money. Love and money. So love, what's love? Connection, relationships. This is what this is all about. And the funny thing is that you have the power to transform your love life in your relationships, but it all starts with you. So anyways, back to our training, which is all about how to have a conscious relationship. So with that being said, the first thing to consider is the relationship that you have with yourself, right? How does that look like? Are you taking care of your own needs, or are you showing up from a place of lack and expecting other people to pick up the pieces that you're not able to pick up for yourself, right? So how are you showing up for yourself? This is really important. And you know, as I say this, when you're going through this exercise with me, I don't want you to judge yourself. I want you to show up for yourself with love and compassion. I just want you to really get clear. Like, am I honest? Be honest with yourself. How am I showing up for myself in life and in this relationship, right? How is it that I'm doing this? And then from that space, it's just to bring awareness, because you can't change something that you're not aware of. So you want to make sure this is just for you to become aware on those things that you do, that you would like to change and shift, right? And we do this with love. We do this without judging. We do this without criticizing. It's just to bring awareness. You can't change anything that you're not aware of. So this is why I want you to do this for yourself, so that you can get clear how you're showing up and be really honest with yourself. This is not a place for you to judge yourself. It's a place for you to be honest with yourself, so that you can get clarity, right, as to how it is that you want to show up for yourself and within the relationship with another, right? And like I said earlier, people are only gonna meet you at the same level that you are willing to meet yourself. So this is why it's so important that you start doing this for yourself, really showing up for yourself. In a conscious relationship, both people are willing to put in the work, right? Both people are willing to hold that sacred space within a relationship. We want to be heard, we want to be accepted, and we want to be loved, right? And so we want this from other people, but a lot of times we're not giving that to ourselves, and we're not giving that to another person. And you have so much more control of yourself and how you show up in your relationships, and how you show up for others will dictate how they show up for you. So it all starts with you. You just got to get out of your ego, get into your heart, and allow yourself to be vulnerable, right? Because from this space, not only are you going to be showing up authentic within your relationship, but the other person is going to feel that they can show up authentically with you, because someone who can be vulnerable and speak from their hearts is going to give off an energy that's going to allow the other person to open up their hearts and allow them to be vulnerable. They're going to trust you, because if you trust yourself, other people will trust you, right? This is one thing that I've learned. If you don't trust yourself, no matter how much you tell another person that you're in a relationship, that they can trust you, that you will never hurt them, that whatever it is that you need to say, if they sense, and subconsciously they can sense it, that you don't trust yourself because of the way you're showing up within the relationship, they're not going to trust you. And how can they trust you with their heart when you're not trusting yourself with your heart, right? So both people have to be open to that. But the interesting is that you only need one person. I'm a relationship coach, and I only work I've worked with a few couples, but most of my work is just with the female. And it takes one person within my relationship, my intimate relationship. I was married for 19 years. The relationship did fall apart. Actually, the intimacy fell apart, but our relationship is better than it has ever been, because I was able to shift myself, hold that space for him. And then what happens is when you do the work on yourself and you start showing up for yourself, now your energy, you go from being here with this other person you're in a relationship, you elevate that to here. And now your job is to make sure that they don't trigger you to come down here, right? So when they're, having their adult tantrum, you stay elevated, you stay in your body, you let them be. If they're being disrespectful, you walk away, you excuse yourself and you walk away because we don't want you to take any kind of abuse. But then what happens is I started just holding myself, giving myself that space and holding space for him, like energetically. I would just see him as a hurt, wounded child who was just feeling disconnected and was trying to get connection with me, but I was stopped feeding the connection out of this level and I'd stayed here. And then what happened was, since I wasn't going down to meet him at this level and he was looking for connection, he started to go up and meet me here, because now we're going to talk like two adults who love each other regardless of what happened and who have a lot of compassion for one another. So I hope that was really helpful for you guys. So I just want to make sure I'm looking at my notes and making sure I'm hitting all my information that I wanted to put up. So yeah, getting in touch with your vulnerable side and holding space for yourself. It's what's really important during these challenging times. You know, the shadow side, the sides of you that you perceive are broken are gonna start to come up, right? And they're gonna start to rise. And this is a good time for you to love and accept on them. When you're feeling any kind of emotions, you know, when you're feeling abandoned, when you're feeling neglected, when you're not feeling good enough, this is a good time for you to tune into your body, your emotions, and allow them to process through you. Usually we want to run from them and we shove them and we don't want to process them. And what we resist persists. So as you're doing this work and you're in a relationship and things are coming up that are triggering you in the relationship, because you're doing the conscious work of staying awake and being conscious, you're the one that has to like take a step back and from this place just process like what is it that I'm feeling in this moment, right? Be really honest with yourself. Allow that to process through you with love and compassion. You are not your thoughts. You're just an observer. Learn to observe your thoughts and to disconnect from them and then shift them to something more empowering. So anytime you're having a struggle within a relationship, just pause, learn to pause, breathe, you know, a couple of deep breaths, one hand over your heart, one over your belly. Take a couple of deep breaths. And then when you feel grounded, you feel like you feel safe from this space, I want you to then say, why am I feeling this way? Why am I feeling this way? Whatever it is that you're feeling, and allow yourself to process it. And you'll see that once you bring awareness to something that you're feeling, label it. I'm feeling this way because I'm scared. I'm feeling abandoned. I'm feeling not heard. I'm not feeling validated. I'm not feeling whatever it is that's coming up for you. Just keep saying this to yourself. By you saying it, you're actually taking away the power that it has on you. And then once you do this and be like, okay, does this have to be true? No. Can I let this go now? Yes. And then show up for yourself. And then once you could ask yourself that a couple of times until you're willing to let it go. And then just from that space, hold yourself, envision yourself, like, you know, make believe you're looking, close your eyes, make believe you're looking at yourself, hold yourself and just tell yourself, I love you. I'm here for you. I hear you. Your voice matters. I'm not going to abandon you. I'm not going to leave you. I'm always going to support you. Start showing up for yourself in this way, because when you start doing that, that's when other people are going to start showing for you in this way. This is the work. It takes a lot of work at the beginning because you have to keep redirecting your mind. Anytime you start to have those fear-based emotions about the relationship or within the relationship, I want you to pause and do this exercise and do it over and over and over again. And you'll find that at the beginning, you're doing it consistently over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. But eventually it becomes a state of who you are. And yes, there's still things that are going to trigger you, because I still get triggered once in a while. But now I've learned when I get triggered, I come at it from an open space. Like I get curious. Like I'm like, okay, why is this bothering me? Anytime somebody does something that it triggers something within me, I like roll up my sleeve and I'm like, okay, why is this bothering me? I'm like, what is this trying to tell me, right? And it always comes down to something unhealed within me. And I know, you know, it takes work, right? It's taken me years to get here. It doesn't have to take years. It could take months. I mean, it took me weeks and months to get this down to where I barely ever get triggered, but I still do get triggered. But when I do, I can easily within seconds talk myself out of it. I start asking empowering questions and become curious as to why it is that I'm feeling. And then let it process with me. And if I need to set a healthy boundary, if I'm feeling fearful because I'm feeling that this person might do something that's going to hurt me, then I need to get clear on how that's going to look like for me and what boundary I'm willing to set for myself so that I don't feel this way. Because if this person chooses to do something that's more in alignment to them, but it's not in alignment to what I want within the relationship, what's the within the relationship, what's the line, right? What is it that what's the oh God, I can't even think right now. Like how am I going to react to that? What am I going to do if this person breaks that trust or whatever, right? But I trust myself to make that decision that's going to work for me. So with that being said, I want you to ask yourself another question. This is a really important question, is there a part of me that pushes love away, right? Because sometimes, and I know I'm guilty of this, we push love away unconsciously. We say we want love, we crave connection, but the second it starts to approach us and we sense that we tense up, especially if we're not used to being open, being vulnerable and receiving, right? Receiving from other people. So get clear how that looks like for me. It looked like as soon as I felt like I was falling for another person and I didn't trust them for whatever reason, part of me didn't know what was going on, I will pull away from the relationship. So I will always be the one walking away from the relationship because it was easier for me to be like, well, I made the decision to walk away, right? It was easier for me to say I abandoned them instead of me saying, me being able to say they abandoned me, right? And so we tend to sometimes push love away unconsciously with self-sabotage the people who are in our lives. So this is a good question to ask so you can find out what limiting beliefs or self-sabotaging behaviors or patterns you have in your life that's keeping you from opening up your heart and it's pushing love away. And you may not be aware of this because I wasn't aware that this was actually a pattern for me until I started to do this work of being conscious and aware of how I was showing up within my relationships. And then when I asked myself this question, I was like, wow, I do push love away. I had to work through some childhood abandonment trauma. So I think I came very stern, very stubborn, very hard-headed. And I was just like, because of what I had experienced, I was like, when I started to fall for someone, I was going to walk away because it was easier for me, for my ego to say, I walked away. I was the one that gave up on the relationship. But guess what? I was closing off my heart. When we don't open our hearts to other people, we don't open them up for ourselves. And when we live our lives with a closed heart, we don't live to our full potential. Nothing. Our hearts it's our connection to ourselves, our authentic self, is our connection to our higher power, is really where life becomes magical. And it's truly where the freedom lies. It's so crazy because for so many years, I was looking for love with a closed off heart, right? And I was trying to control everybody around me from this energy. But when I opened up my heart to myself and I fully accepted myself and started to love and trust myself unconditionally, I started doing the same for others. And the beauty of it is that freedom came from that. Freedom truly came from me being vulnerable and opening up my heart. When I was trying to guard my heart, I felt stuck. I felt alone. I felt abandoned. I felt neglected. I felt disconnected from myself. But when I shift this around, I felt this freedom, this lightness, this connection to myself, this connection to a higher power, this connection to life that I had never felt before. So it's really interesting how that works, right? So learning to self-soothe yourself during times when you're feeling stressed once you've made the decision to have a conscious relationship, which means you're going to bring awareness to how you're showing up for yourself, how you're showing up with the relationship, and getting clear as how you would like to show up within the relationship. It's making sure that you self-soothe yourself over and over again, like I said earlier, by tuning into your emotions, allowing them to flow through you. There's so many different things that you can do for this. I gave you a tip here. Another one, you can journal. You can do so many different things to try to self-soothe yourself. The most important thing is that whatever you decide to do is just tune into yourself and feel it. Feel it in your body. Another quick thing is feel the emotion in your body where you're tensing up, if it's in your stomach, if it's on your back, if it's on your shoulder, and really just breathe into that. Just breathe into that area until you feel like it's starting to dissipate. And then, tell yourself, like, journal it out, or tell yourself, like, I'm safe. You just want to make sure that you're always showing up for yourself, so that you acknowledge the feeling, you label the emotion of what you're feeling, and then you let it go. And then you show up for yourself with love and compassion, right? By telling yourself, like, I'm here for you. I love you. I'm going to support you. Your voice matters. You matter. You're important. You're amazing. Whatever else you need to tell yourself to soothe yourself is really important. And then just two more things. When you're in a relationship and you're, because I said earlier, when you're practicing conflict resolution, so that's how you start having a conscious relationship. Now I was going to jump into something else. This is how to have a conscious relationship. It's just becoming aware of yourself, of your emotions, how you're showing up within the relationship for yourself, how you're showing up within the relationship. And then once you figure this out without judging the other person, it's really about how would you like to show up within the relationship? How would you like the other person to show up for you? This is really important. I learned this from Dr. Joe Dispenza, and he's like, we're always looking for love with a closed-off heart. We talked about that. Oh, we're always saying we have a long list of all the qualities that we want from another person, right? But a lot of times we're not even doing that for ourselves. So I remember when I heard him saying this, I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. He's like, make a list of the essence of the person you're calling into your life. Or if you're within the relationship, how would you like this relationship to go? What would you like from an intimate relationship, a friend, whichever way you're going? Do you want somebody who's trustworthy? Do you want somebody who's loving? Do you want somebody that's a good listener? Do you want somebody who's X, Y, and Z? We may have different things, right? Get clear on that. And once you can get clear on that, show up for yourself in that way. So if you want somebody to be trustworthy, where in your life are you not being trustworthy with yourself? Where in your life are you holding yourself back, right? If you want somebody who's loving, what areas of your life are you not showing love to yourself or others? But it's mostly about you. If you want somebody who's honest, what areas of your life are you not being completely honest with yourself, right? And again, this exercise is not meant for you to judge yourself. It's just meant for you to bring awareness to how you're showing up for yourself and for the people around you, so that then you can make the conscious choice to shift it, right? So I want to be very clear about this. It's not about judging yourself. It's not going to change the situation. We don't want to do that. We want to show up for ourselves with love and compassion. And that starts from you becoming aware. And when you do become aware, just let it go. Say, you know what? This is the old me. The new me chooses to do things differently. You're entitled to change. We all are, right? So conflict resolution. I talked about this earlier. So it's really important when we are having any kind of relationship, but especially when you're doing this work to be conscious within a relationship, you're still going to have struggles. You're still going to have disagreements. It's two people who have two different perspectives, who have two different experienced life, completely different, coming together for the purpose of creating a beautiful union, right? You're going to have disagreements. There's no such thing as a perfect relationship. But I feel like how you show up, relationships are meant to help us grow. This is my belief. We came to life in general to grow and evolve. And when we're in a relationship, that doesn't change. We're still two people growing independently and also growing together, right? So we're growing together as a team, supporting each other, not judging each other, listening to each other, showing up for each other with love, compassion, being willing to hear the other person. This is what we're doing. So because we're going to have disagreements within a relationship, the way you do a conflict resolution is that you express what you're feeling to that other person. So let's just say the other person, I'm going to use this as an example because I've been there. Someone you're dating, someone you're talking to disappears for 2 or 3 days and doesn't, without any heads up, doesn't give you any information as to why they've disappeared. And now you can, the hurt, wounded child of you who's been abandoned may start to think, like, get scared, like, okay, where's this going? Where is he? Or start like, why is this the connection not going? Or did I do something? You can go down that route, or which I did initially, or you can go down the route of, what if this person got hurt? What if he's in the hospital? What if it's this, our ego minds are always going to go to worst case scenario, right? So I self-soothed myself through that time, that experience, and I showed up for myself with love and compassion. I didn't reach out. I let it be, whatever. Then when you guys actually do have a conversation, whether you take the few days to show up for yourself and allow the person to show up in their own time, or you are the one reaching out to have the conversation. The next time we had a conversation, I said, and I expressed myself, I didn't judge the other person. I was like, you know what, when this person reached out to me, I was like, I'm glad you are okay. I'm glad everything's good. I said, but I'm really confused when we disconnect like this, like I'm thinking we're building something really special, and communication is really important to me. And even though we're at the beginning stages of everything, this is where the foundation gets built. And so if you can easily just disappear like this, it makes me feel disconnected. It makes me feel hurt. It makes me feel scared, right? And I had to own my feelings, and it's not easy to say that. Like, it makes me feel scared, and I didn't like how it felt. And this is not how I want to build. This is not the foundation of a relationship that I would like to build for myself. I'm looking for a relationship where we can communicate and have a good understanding, and really support one another and be on the same page. And so express what you're feeling. See, the person was able to hear and immediately said, you know what, you're right. I didn't even think of it. I got busy. I was doing X, Y, and Z. And I understood their point of view. They weren't purposely not trying to reach out to me. So I wasn't mad when we initially connected, because I had done all the work to realize that everything that had happened had nothing to do with me and everything to do with this other person, right? But I was able to still express my feelings, but I went into like, this is how I feel. And guess what? The other person was able to hear it, because I didn't judge the person. I didn't say you're wrong and you should never done that. I didn't get dramatic. I really stay grounded, stay in my heart space. And I said, I'm glad you had a good time. I'm glad you were able to do this unexpected thing. I completely get it. But you know what? I felt scared. I felt this, I felt whatever it is that I was feeling, and it didn't feel good. And it didn't feel good for me to feel this way. And that's all I had to say. And this person was like, you know what? I'm so sorry. I didn't even think about it, but you're absolutely right. Right. And I was like, okay. So, and this is what I mean by being vulnerable. When you're vulnerable with yourself and with the other person, they can hear you. When we judge, when we criticize, when we make the other person wrong, it's not going to shift it's going to make the situation worse. Remember that it doesn't matter who's right. It didn't matter that whether I was right or he was wrong. When we're in a relationship, we're trying to connect and communicate with the other person to fix a problem, right? So it doesn't matter if he's right or you're wrong, or she's right and he's wrong. That's irrelevant. What's important is there's an issue. How are we going to work through this in a way that works for the both of us, right? And this is the way for you to start having a conscious relationship, is to realize that you're together and you're talking to each other to work through something, not to judge each other, blame each other, because it doesn't really matter whose fault it is. What matters is how you're going to resolve whatever it is that's going on. So with that being said, thank you so much for sitting here with me for a little bit, about 35 minutes for this training. It's been a pleasure for me to be here with you guys. I really love and enjoy showing up here. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of your Thursday night and the rest of your Veterans Day. And I will see you guys at my next training. Take care. Bye-bye.